Hanımlar ve canablar, lütfen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please have a seat now. The forum is getting kick-started. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished guests, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are delighted to welcome you today to the Halal Economy Leadership Forum, HELF, and the Azerbaijan Halal Business Forum, AZHAB 2026, brought to you through the proud collaboration of the Islamic Development Bank Group, the Azerbaijan Halal Business Forum, the Halal Development Corporation, Malaysia, and the Halal Products Development Company, Saudi Arabia, and our esteemed global partners. This year, our collective focus is anchored on a vital and transformative theme, Halal Economy for Sustainable Regional Integration. To bless the commencement of our journey today, may we kindly request everyone to remain seated as we listen to a recitation of verses from the Holy Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام را تلك آيات الكتاب الحكيم أكان للناس عجبا أن أوحينا إلى رجل منهم أن أنذر الناس وبشر الذين آمنوا أن لهم قدم صدق عند ربهم قال الكافرون إن هذا لساحر مبين إن ربكم الله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في 6 أيام ثم استوى على العرش يدبر الأمر ما من شفيع إلا من بعد إذنه ذلكم الله ربكم فاعبدوه أفلا تذكرون إليه مرجعكم جميعا وعد الله حقا إنه يبدأ الخلق ثم يعيده ليجزي الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات بالقسط والذين كفروا لهم شراب من حميم وعذاب أليم بما كانوا يكفرون هو الذي جعل الشمس ضياء والقمر نورا وقدره منازل لتعلموا عدد السنين والحساب ما خلق الله ذلك إلا بالحق يفصل الآيات لقوم يعلمون إن في اختلاف الليل والنهار وما خلق الله في السماوات والأرض لآيات وما خلق الله في السماوات والأرض لآيات لقوم يتقون إن الذين لا يرجون لقاءنا ورضوا بالحياة الدنيا واطمأنوا بها والذين هم عن آياتنا غافلون أولئك مأواهم النار بما كانوا يكسبون إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات يهديهم ربهم بإيمانهم تجري من تحتهم الأنهار في جنات النعيم دعواهم فيها سبحانك اللهم وتحيتهم فيها سلام وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين ولو يعجل الله للناس الشر استعجالهم بالخير لقضي إليهم أجلهم فنذر الذين لا يرجون لقاءنا في طغيانهم يعمهون وإذا مس الإنسان الضر دعانا لجنبه أو قاعدا أو قائما فلما كشفنا عنه ضره مر كأن لم يدعنا إلى ضر مسه كذلك زين للمسرفين ما كانوا يعملون ولقد أهلكنا القرون من قبلكم لما ظلموا وجاءتهم رسلهم بالبينات وما كانوا ليؤمنوا كذلك نجزي القوم المجرمين ثم جعلناكم خلائف في الأرض من بعدهم لننظر كيف تعملون.
Mesdames, Messieurs, le forum est devenu une plateforme mondiale qui rassemble les leaders de l'industrie, les institutions gouvernementales ainsi que les acteurs du secteur privé dans les pays membres de la BID. L'édition de cette année reflète notre engagement commun à renforcer la coopération régionale, la connectivité commerciale et la chaîne des valeurs durables du Halal. Nous avons donc le plaisir de demander au président de l'Agence pour les PME, M. Mamadou, vous avez la parole. Orhan Mamadov, président du conseil d'administration de Kobia et du forum AZHAB. Merci. Excellences, chers invités, mesdames, messieurs, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. J'ai l'honneur de vous recevoir ici à cette édition spéciale du forum qui se tient en Azerbaïdjan en collaboration avec le Halal Leadership Forum 26 dans le cadre de l'Assemblée annuelle de la Banque islamique de développement qui se tient dans notre capitale Bakou. Tout d'abord, je voudrais exprimer nos remerciements au groupe de la Banque islamique de développement, non seulement pour avoir regroupé nos amis, les acteurs politiques, les acteurs du développement, les universitaires et les experts de l'industrie, mais également pour sa contribution de longue durée dans le cadre du renforcement de la coopération, du développement et du renforcement de la solidarité entre les pays membres. À travers son leadership, le groupe a joué un rôle important dans la promotion de l'économie halal et du renforcement des liens dans le monde musulman. En fait, le HELF joue un rôle important dans la promotion de l'économie halal au niveau de la région. C'est la raison pour laquelle ce forum revêt une importance capitale pour nous. À cet égard, je voudrais remercier sincèrement nos partenaires, le groupe de la BID et vos excellences à Malaisie, à Kuala Lumpur, la compagnie de développement du Halal en Arabie Saoudite, en Malaisie, ainsi que tous les amis, partenaires, organisations dont l'appui et la coopération nous ont permis de tenir cet important événement. Le forum HAZHAB a été créé dans la région pour développer un écosystème économique durable dans la région. Il se veut une plateforme permanente de regroupement des partenaires dans le cadre du halal, et cela n'aurait pas été possible sans l'esprit de partenariat, d'amitié qui nous anime, ainsi que de l'engagement commun qui nous anime. Donc, je voudrais également remercier sincèrement Madame Zahran Zulus El Jogout, merci, directeur général de CESRIC, M. Ila Morout, secrétaire général du SMIG, pour leur soutien sans réserve, ainsi que pour le développement donc de notre forum au cours des dernières années. Chers amis, aujourd'hui l'économie halal est en pleine expansion à travers le monde. Il touche, il dépasse les aliments halal pour prendre en charge l'économie, le tourisme, les finances, la technologie digitale et beaucoup d'autres secteurs de l'économie. Avec un marché qui sert des milliards de clients, l'économie halal ouvre des opportunités d'investissement, de commerce et d'échange. Mais pour libérer le potentiel, il faut une coopération spéciale. Les défis portent sur les normes, la certification, l'accès au marché, les financements et la transformation digitale, ainsi que l'intégration de la chaîne des valeurs. Ces questions ne peuvent pas être traitées de manière séparée et par pays. Il faut donc un leadership collectif et des actions coordonnées. Un levier important de l'économie halal est la finance islamique du fait de la prise en charge du partage des risques. Ce secteur peut jouer un rôle important dans la promotion des entreprises halal, notamment les PME. Les partenaires et les institutions financières pourront nous accompagner dans la mobilisation des investissements, la facilitation du commerce et de la création de nouveaux débouchés pour le développement économique de nos pays. Chers participants, en ce qui concerne l'Azerbaïdjan, le développement du système, de l'écosystème et de l'économie halal représente des opportunités économiques. L'Azerbaïdjan sert de pont pour les marchés régionaux et internationaux à travers des réformes visant à améliorer l'environnement, à promouvoir l'entrepreneuriat et l'innovation. Notre pays est en train de créer des conditions pour les entreprises tournées vers le halal ainsi que les banques. Il s'agira non seulement d'assurer la croissance des marchés, mais le renforcement des partenariats. Par conséquent, je voudrais inviter tous nos amis, nos acteurs qui sont représentés ici, y compris les institutions de développement, les institutions de financement islamique, les leaders du secteur privé ainsi que les agences de certification, de trouver d'autres voies de coopération et de collaboration. Évidemment, ensemble, nous pourrons renforcer la chaîne des valeurs, mobiliser des investissements, favoriser les financements et assurer la prospérité durable au sein de nos communautés. Je suis sûr que les discussions d'aujourd'hui nous permettront d'avoir des idées et de sortir avec des recommandations pour la promotion du système halal mondial et le renforcement renforcement économique au sein de nos pays membres et entre nos pays amis. Encore une fois, je vous souhaite la bienvenue et vous souhaite des délibérations fructueuses et plein succès dans vos travaux. Je vous remercie.
Mr. Mehmet.
Merci, M. Mamadov, pour notre... Nous allons inviter M. Samer Al-Sawi, chef du pôle de la BID à Kuala Lumpur. Vous avez la parole, M. El-Sawi. Excellences, chers participants, chers invités, mesdames et messieurs, salam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. C'est pour moi un plaisir de vous accueillir à ce forum de 2026 sur le thème économie halal pour le renforcement de l'économie à l'occasion des assemblées générales de la BID ici. Ce forum représente beaucoup parce qu'il regroupe les leaders du marché halal dans des conditions spéciales en collaboration avec nos partenaires, le COBIA, le Halal Development Corporation de Malaisie, Halal
and other distinguished partners. The forum provides a unique platform for policymakers, regulators, industry leaders, investors, and development partners to strengthen cooperation and advance the global halal economy. Building on the success of previous editions of the held during the ISDB Group annual meetings, the Halal Economy Leadership Forum has evolved into a flagship platform of the ISDB Group, bringing together policymakers and regulators, industry leaders, and development partners to advance practical solutions to halal economic system development across ISDB member countries. I would like to express our sincere appreciation to the government of the Republic of Azerbaijan for hosting the ISDB Group annual meetings and for its strong commitment to advance regional cooperation, private sector development, and economic connectivity across our member countries. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, today the halal economy represents one of the fastest growing sectors in the global economy. What was once viewed as primarily as a niche consumer segment has now evolved into a broad economic ecosystem. Global Muslim consumers spending across halal sector is projected to exceed $3 trillion in the coming years. At the same time, ISDB group member countries collectively represent one of the world's largest halal consumers and production markets, offering enormous opportunities for intra-OIC trade, industrial cooperation, investment partnerships, and SME development. However, despite this potential, many member countries continue to face challenges, including fragmented halal standards and certification system, infrastructure and logistics gaps, limited access to financing for halal businesses, and insufficient integration into global regional value chains. To address these challenges will require great collaboration and coordination among institutions and closer collaboration among stakeholders across the halal ecosystem. This is why this year's theme, the halal economy for sustainable regional integration, is particularly timely and important. Regional integration requires more than trade. It requires strong value chains, trusted institutions, investment flows, knowledge exchange, and effective partnerships. The halal economy provides a practical platform to advance these objectives while supporting job creation, MSME development, and sustainable growth. Ladies and gentlemen, the halal economy should not be viewed only through the lens of trade or consumption. It should also be viewed as a strategic platform for economic diversification, food security, industrial development, and job creation. Recognizing these opportunities, the ISDB Group has progressively strengthened its support for halal ecosystem development across ISDB member countries through capacity building, investment facilitation, technical cooperation, and sharing successful experiences. Through the ISDB Center of Excellence in Kuala Lumpur and our strategic partners, we are supporting a growing portfolio of initiatives aimed at strengthening halal ecosystem, promotional sustainable halal businesses, enhancing institutional capacity, and facilitation transfer of successful experiences among our member countries. These efforts are helping transform knowledge and good practice into scalable solutions that can contribute to economic diversification, private sector development, and regional integration among OIC member countries. We're also pleased that today's forum will witness the launch of a Global Islamic Economist Program, a new initiative developed in partnership with Bank Negara Malaysia, INSEF University, and other strategic partners to help nurture the next generation of leaders in Islamic economics and finance. Ladies and gentlemen, the future of the halal economy will increasingly depend on digitization, mutual recognition of standards, integrated logistic corridors, and strong cross-halal value chains. Member countries must position themselves not only as consumers of halal product, but also as producers, exporters, investment destinations with a more connected global halal ecosystem. Azerbaijan represents an important example of a growing interest among member countries in harnessing the opportunities of the halal economy. Its strategic location, commitment to economic diversification, and connectivity across region position it well to contribute to the development of regional halal value chains and new investment opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, the next phase of halal economy development will not be defined by ambition only, but by implementation. Success will depend on our ability to translate strategy into investment, standards into market access, and partnerships into tangible economic opportunities for businesses, entrepreneurs, and communities across our member countries. At the ISDB Group, we reaffirm our strong commitment to continue supporting our member countries and partners in developing the halal economy as a driver for sustainable development, regional integration, economic resilience, and inclusive growth. Today's discussion will explore key strategic areas including ethical halal business models, innovation, sustainable halal MSMEs, green transition initiatives, halal industrial ecosystem development, regional trade connectivity, and investment opportunities across the global halal economy. More importantly, let's ensure that conversations we have today translate into practical partnerships, tangible investment, and collaborative initiatives that deliver lasting impact across our member countries. Thank you, and I wish you a successful forum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Mr. Elisawi, thank you for your speech. We now begin our first session, Strategic Leadership Dialogue, Ethical Halal Business Models and Risk-Resilient Financing. As the global halal economy continues to expand, the need for ethical business models, resilient financing mechanisms, and strong institutional partnership has never been greater. This strategic leadership dialogue will explore how governments, development institutions, and industry leaders can work together to strengthen sustainable halal ecosystem development, advance industry leadership, and support long-term growth. To moderate these important discussions, it's our pleasure to invite Mr. Amer Bukvic, Director of SDP Group Regional Hub, Jakarta. Mr. Amer, may we invite you to stage? Please welcome. Joining him are Ms. Zahra Zümrüt Selçuk, Director General, SESRIC, Statistical, Economic and Social Research and Training Center for Islamic Countries. Mr. Amin Al-Saadi, Chief Investment Officer, HPDC, Halal Product Development Company, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Mr. Hadi Hamza, Special Officer to CEO and Chairman, HDC, Halal Development Corporation. Mr. Nazim Nordali, Chief Operating Officer, ITFC, International Islamic Trade Finance Corporation. Dear colleagues, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And a very good morning to all of you today. We have gathered in this first opening session to explore the ethical halal business models, to explore the strategic partnerships, to explore the resilient financing mechanisms that are available. And with this, how do we strengthen the competitiveness of the halal industry, the sustainability of the halal ecosystem, and the global integration of halal industry and ecosystems. So we have a very prominent panel with us that would, from the leadership perspective, with the different background experiences from product development, financing, different geographical concentration experience, would explore the possibilities of investment, trade integration, sustainability, and overall institutional collaboration within the halal industry. So it gives me a great pleasure to be and moderate this session. And we would be going through tackling the different themes, the focus areas. So in the first round of questions, we would be looking at the ethical and sustainable halal business ecosystem development. Then we would look at the risk-resilient financing and investment facilitation for halal industries and how to strengthen the halal regional value chains and cross-border partnerships and strategic role of institutions in enabling halal industry and MSME participation. So first I would give the floor to our honorable speakers to introduce shortly themselves. They have been introduced already, but just to give a short introduction of 1 to 2 minutes on their position and their experience. So we will start with you, sister.
Thank you very much. My name is Zehra Zümrüt Selçuk. I'm the director of SESRIC. We have a long name, the acronym is SESRIC. It is Statistical Socio-Economic Research and Training Center for Islamic countries. It's a subsidiary organ of OIC. We are working for 57 member countries of OIC. And we have 3 core mandates, which are producing statistics and information, doing some economic and social research, and also training and technical cooperation. And halal industry and halal economy is one of our main areas that we are working in terms of statistics, also research, and also training. This is a very short brief of what we are doing at SESRIC.
Thank you, Zahra. Brother Amin.
Thank you, Brother Ahmed. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is Amin Al-Saadi. I am the Chief Investment Officer in Halal Products Development Company. In terms of my background, my background is mainly in investments. However, I have been with HPDC for the last 4 years, and I have the opportunity to learn a lot about the investments in the halal sector. HPDC is an investment, or it's a subsidiary of the Saudi Public Investment Fund that focuses mainly on enabling the halal sector, mainly in Saudi Arabia, through 2 main arms. The first arm is through investments, and the second arm is through halal advisory. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to interacting with everyone.
Thank you, Brother Amin. Brother Hadi Hamza.
Thank you, Dato' Amir. Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. My name is Hadi Hamza. I'm a special officer at the CEO's office and chairman's office of Halal Development Corporation. It's been about 12 years that I'm in HTC, and HTC itself is 20 years old this year. So I'm in charge of the strategic planning of HTC, and ultimately the whole Malaysia because HTC is mandated to design and develop and maintain and coordinate halal development agendas in Malaysia and throughout the world. So I think one of the many products that we brought out are halal master plans, halal strategies, and the likes of it. It's open for development throughout the region and also throughout the world. It's a pleasure to be here. We'll continue this conversation as we go along this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Hadi. Now I will give the floor to a gentleman. Actually, I joined IDB 28 years ago as a young professional. At that time, Nazim was already a leader in IDB in the Trade Finance and Promotion Department. He was one of the strong leaders of that department. So I will give the floor before I just needed to say these few words of a very, very long tradition of working and experiencing your leadership. But Brother Nazim.
Yeah. Thank you, Amir. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for the short introduction on trade finance. Yes, we've been colleagues now for almost 30 years, I would say. So I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the ITFC, which is the International Islamic Trade Finance Corporation. It's an affiliate of the Islamic Development Bank, and we established in 2008 as ITFC, but we existed before since 1977 as a department in IDB called Trade Finance and Promotion Department. As of today, in terms of trade finance, as ITFC, we have done over $95 billion of trade finance, which is short-term working capital finance, import finance, export finance, supply chain finance, structured commodity finance, most of the whole range of trade finance product that exists on the market. And ITFC within the group and IDB itself is proud to be one of the leading trade finance institutions. And I would even add that IDB is the first multilateral that set up trade finance and then as an activity before any other multilateral like World Bank, Asian Development, African Development Bank. So we are proud to be with one innovating trade finance as a mainstream development financing function that is required by multilateral. Thank you.
Thank you, Nazim. I think we have a very impressive panel in front of us today, and I will start in the first round of questions, trying to tackle the halal ecosystem development and strategic opportunities, and where do we see a potential in this area. And I will start with the Director General of SESRIC, Ms. Zehra Zomrud Seljuk, by asking you a question. What role can regional cooperation institutions play in strengthening halal ecosystem integration across OIC member countries?
Thank you very much for this question. Actually, as OIC institutions, what we are doing is our role extends beyond facilitating only dialogue. We have a responsibility to support our member countries in transforming a shared potential into a coordinated action, potential partnerships, and also a measurable progress towards sustainable development. From this perspective, regional cooperation institutions can play a strategic role in empowering halal ecosystem integration across OIC member countries. As we all know, the halal ecosystem has reached a scale and level of complexity that increasingly requires a more coordinated and more collective approaches alongside national efforts. Today, the halal economy is a multi-trillion dollar ecosystem. So it spans from Islamic finance to Islamic halal food tourism, pharmaceutical, lifestyle approaches, and also logistics. So we have a wide range of industries under Islamic economy. And recent estimates suggest that the global halal market was valued at around $4.7 trillion in 2018. In 2023, it reached up to more than $7 trillion. And the projected growth is to be like about $11 trillion by 2028. So we are talking about a huge industry, and for OIC countries, actually, this growth is more significant because, with roughly 81% of the world's Muslim population is residing in OIC member countries, so the region is estimated to represent around 80% of the global halal market. So we have a huge demand for global halal industries as well. So this demographic and economic weight provides not only as a kind of very strong and sustained demand base, but also it gives us a strategic opportunity for deeper industrial development, value chain integration, and also regional cooperation. So we can look at that member countries, in OIC member countries, the halal market will definitely grow, but what we are requiring for as a regional organization is what we can do to make them more coordinated, more integrated, so that rather than how to translate this already existing demand to a stronger production capacity, higher value demand of exports, greater investment, more quality employment in these sectors, and deeper regional integration. So this is why this panel is very timely. So this is why we should talk more about ethical halal business models and how to make risk-resilient financing about this. So in this vein, we believe that the future growth of halal economy will depend on how effectively we can connect finance, trade, investment, labor markets, and also the standard certification systems, and also the small, medium enterprises, MSME development within a coherent, more integrated ecosystem.
Thank you very much. This is very impressive. The numbers are huge. We are talking trillions. Just the tourism, what the Director General mentioned, from 4.7 to 7, and prospective in 28, 11 trillion. The market is huge. The potential is huge. Where do our member countries stand on this? We can ask the second speaker, Mr. Amin Al-Saadi, the CIO of HBDC Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. From Saudi Arabia's perspective, what are the key drivers shaping the future of global halal economy, which was mentioned just is a very huge potential.
Indeed. Thank you, Mr. Amir. And I think this is one of the main drivers of the future of halal. And this is something that I would refer to Mr. Rohan and Mr. Samir's speech. They have mentioned two important drivers. The first driver, of course, is the shift in the halal industry from being a compliance-based into a framework that covers both halal and ESG principles and covers all aspects in any organization, which includes governance, marketing, branding, in addition to the fair relationships with customers and suppliers. The other important factor is the growth in demand. As mentioned earlier, the halal industry is one of the fastest growing industries worldwide. This growth is coming from multiple sources. The first source, of course, is the growth in the number of Muslims worldwide, and this will result in a proportionate demand in the halal products. The other aspect is the addition of multiple sectors under the halal. So traditionally, we were talking about food, and we were talking about Islamic finance, and those will remain the largest two sectors within the halal. However, now we're seeing demand, and we're seeing also initiatives from multiple entrepreneurs and companies working on other sectors, be it clothing or tourism and any other sector. So we're seeing halal being involved in multiple sectors. And this is also, we expect that it is another driver for the future of halal. Talking about another factor which is related to customers is the increasing expectations for quality. Now, customers are seeing halal or the halal certification as the base, not just the requirement. They see it as a minimum, and from a quality perspective, they compare halal products with other products that are produced globally with major players in the market. Another, of course, aspect is the technology, as was mentioned before. Technology is involved in the advancement of operations, in addition to ingredients. We are seeing that technology is helping manufacturers, especially in the food industry, to come up with alternative ingredients that are halal instead of other ingredients. And for example, gelatin and collagen. Some time ago, it was mainly from hides from sheep and cows. Now we're seeing technologies that can extract gelatin, for example, from other resources, whether it's multiple resources. The last factor that we believe has a major impact on the future is, of course, the strategic government support. Private companies will focus at the end of the day at the financial returns. However, the integration between the different countries, the different stakeholders in the halal sector will require the strategic government support, be it on the investment side or on the regulatory side. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Amin. Very, very impressive, and another dimension of a very depth of a market that we are looking at. And one of the early market players in halal thematical industry was Malaysia. And I would like to invite now Brother Hadi Hamza to give us, as a representative of Halal Development Corporation Malaysia, to give us a dimension or a perspective from Malaysians' lessons from the halal ecosystem experience that could be adopted by other member countries? Brother Hadi.
Thank you, Dato' Amir. I call Brother Amir Dato' because I think at the Malaysian level he's considered as a royalty. Perhaps a little bit of history I think is necessary, is needed. Malaysia's halal journey never started as an industry agenda. It was always based on consumer trust and confidence. I think all the while every Muslim majority country has a similar point, meaning to manage their consumers' confidence on the halal products or halal consumables. But like every other countries, Muslim majority country, we also have the economic agenda. So you've got your so-called Sharia, and then you've got your economic agenda. So it started off when Malaysia issued the first halal letter, actually, a letter from Bahagian Hal Ehwal Islam. So it means the Department of Islamic Affairs, what was previously, what is now called as JAKIM. So Bahis actually provided a letter to a few franchise companies, franchise restaurants, to ascertain that the products are halal certified. So the first phase was always about trust, but over time, basic consumer assurance, about 30 odd years, it shifted. I think we saw a lot of international brands coming in, multinationals, Westerners adopting halal. So we say, hey, this must be a shift in commercial value of halal. So the Westerners saw halal as a halal proposition for products, for services, and so on. So that's why within the 30 years, HDC came into the picture. 2006, oddly, HDC came in at the request of the state rulers, first and foremost, but also the cabinet of ministers, looking at how, because the Westerners are on, the multinationals are taking more steps, concrete steps into getting into halal, but not the Muslim majority companies. So this showed that from there on, it has to start within our shores first. So the role of HGC was to harness these downstream activities. We saw a lot of our products, raw materials getting into multinationals, supply chain and so on, but never harnessed to our own potential. So HDC came in, created a lot of product mixes, substitutables, and that's why we see a lot of varied products from the Malaysian market into the world. So that's currently it's about 10% of contribution to our GDP. That's quite a sizable number of contribution. We have about 12,000 or so halal certified companies as of now. About 222 odd are listed on our bourse. About 9.3% market capitalization. We have industrial assets of about 100 billion or so in Malaysia. About 20% of that from foreign direct investments. So we have our ecosystem that is built around our government agencies. We've got about 300 or so government agencies working together, NGOs, our export promotion agencies, our business chambers and so on working together. We also have, this session we have our Halal Park player, NSTAG Halal Park, which is one of the most progressive halal parks in Malaysia. I think courting about 300 odd tenants as of now. About 25% of that from foreign direct investment. We've got Japanese players, we've got Arab Emirates players and various sectors. So I think at the very least, what I would argue, our main lesson learned is convergence. Convergence. So what I mean by convergence is getting all the government agencies to converge and work together at one within an industry, and then getting the regions. I think we have a very thriving halal industry within our ASEAN region. I think, as you know, Indonesia, Thailand, and now Vietnam, and now Philippines. I think we're making up about 25% of the market, consumption, and also production. I think that's the very very good way of looking at how Malaysia has learned from the ecosystem. It's the convergence of it. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Brother Hadi. Again, we see numbers are huge. We are talking about trillions. We are talking about a very deep market, huge potential. We looked at Malaysian example, but actually, how do we tap into that market? How do our companies benefit from that more? How do we transform from just being a market to being a leader, providing products and services? What are the gaps? I'll turn to the fourth speaker, my dear brother Nazim Nordali, the Chief Operating Officer of ITFC, to ask him a question. What financing and capacity development gaps currently exists within halal value chains, particularly for the MSMEs?
Thank you, Amir. We know quite well that the halal ecosystem has gone some sort of success story over the years, that quite a number of years, I would say, that we've been working on it globally. We know that it's not anymore underestimated. It's becoming more mainstream economy globally. It estimated that the halal economy bring about valued at $2.35 trillion, or maybe will increase by highest growth economy. On the other hand, we have the Islamic finance, which is here to accompany the halal economy. And this one, Islamic finance market, estimated around $5.5 to $6 trillion in terms of asset. That will go to maybe 7.5 within the next 2 to 3 years. However, we must admit that we find a disconnect between the financial part and the economy, the real economy. We don't see the financing keep pace with financing the halal economy. Why is it that we don't see that alignment, I would say, or synergy between finance and the halal business pillar, like food, pharmaceutical, or tourism industries? So this is a challenge that we have and we need to face. Despite what our effort is, we don't see the Islamic finance is working hand in hand with the halal economy. They are, yes, but we don't see that much. And we want our member countries, Islamic countries, business operators to develop the halal economy worldwide in our member country, not to be dominated by the non-Islamic Western world, which is taking advantage that there's a big market for halal for them to penetrate. So for our member countries, business operators, as you mentioned, you want a question about, for our SMEs and micro and small medium enterprise to be able to develop the halal economy, they need to be provided the right tools, the right enablers. So they need to have access to financing, but also in with it capacity building in order for them to be able to take advantage. So what do we offer? What we want to offer is the SME, micro SME is the backbone of all economy, whether it is halal or non-halal oriented economy. So we need to be able to help them to grow. And Islamic finance is supposed to help them to do it. So what we need is actually somewhere to bridge the gap. So some estimate that, for example, trade finance gap estimated by the Asian Development Bank for the SME is at 2.5 3, I would say 2.5, I'll check on my notes. We talk about $2.5 trillion, all right? So it's huge potential. So what can we do? So I would say that we have to have member countries to provide the ability for them to access. So, but this is the problem that is not because of halal economy, but how to get SME to grow, to be competitive. So banking sector, Islamic banking by itself is supposed to help, I would say, the SMEs to grow, need to come up with innovative methods in order to help them to mainstream into the global halal economy. So to do that, we need to look at SMEs differently, how to tackle the problem of challenges faced by SMEs. Main challenge faced by SMEs or micro SMEs is lack of collateral. They all bank will offer collateral for them to access financing. So this is a problem, a challenge that faces any SME worldwide, whether a halal economy or non-halal economy. So we need to come up with a closer interaction between the stakeholders, on one side, the government and financial institution, on the other side, the SME institution that will help SME to grow. So the challenge is here. We have yet not reached it to bridge the gap. We need to create a closer synergy between the Islamic finance and the halal business economy and ecosystem, so that we can help the halal value chain to be able to grow faster.
Thank you, Brother Nazim. This is very interesting. We are going deeper into actually requirements of the market. How do we develop our companies? How do we transform into being a leader in this very emerging, fastly emerging new field? Now we would go a little bit on discussing on institutional support, which is financing and not only financing. There is also a requirement to support in accessibility to markets, to structuring products, but mostly the institutional support on financing and SME development. So I will turn back to the Director General of SESRIC, Ms. Zehra Zumrud Seljuk, and ask her on how can member countries improve institutional capacity and policy coordination to accelerate halal sector development.
Thank you very much. Actually, when we are talking about halal sector, the first thing that comes to our mind is certification. But now we are talking about a huge potential for the market, and now the certification, the halal sector development is no longer confined to the development of certification. So improving institutional capacity and also policy coordination is very essential for the development of this sector. For this reason, our member countries need to move from more fragmented efforts to a more coordinated and integrated approaches for better development of this halal sector development. And such governance require both countries and also the institutions within the countries to work together around to set up a clear national priorities for the development of halal sector. And we know that the scale of opportunity is very huge, but on the other hand, we have existing barriers for the development of this sector. So this also, on the one hand, we have the opportunities, on the other hand, we have challenges. So this also indicates us a clear need for stronger coordination. As I previously mentioned, now we are talking about a market to reach about $11 trillion by 2028. So at the same time, the sector continues to have fragmented regulatory frameworks, inconsistent certification mechanisms, and limited access to halal finance, and also uneven institutional capacity between countries and also among the institutions. So they required a coordinated ecosystem approach for the development. So what we can suggest is the first thing that for a more developed institutional capacity is to have a national halal economy strategies for each member country. And as in such strategies, each country should define their priority sectors and responsible institutions, their export targets in the sectors, and their investment needs, their trade potential, and also the SME support mechanisms, because we know that mostly the halal sector development is flourish in the SME sector. And for this vein, to support this, actually last year, October 2025, I want to thank to His Excellency Mr. Orhan Mammadov, we initiated a kind of a network called OIC SME Network. At that time, it's COBIA, now ASPROMA. It is the first time that we have a network among the SMEs, OIC, and it is a kind of very initiative to support SMEs towards development of halal business sector in our member countries. And also the second thing that we can have to have more integrated approach is to have a interagency coordination mechanisms within each country. We have such mechanisms can align the standards, the investment promotion, export facilitation. So so what we can do is that all of the institutions within the countries should work to complement each other to have a more progressive halal sector in their countries. And several member countries already provide useful examples. They are best successful examples in this regard, like Malaysia, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Turkey. We have very good examples to have a coordinated halal sector coordination among the institutions. The third step that we give special importance is that to promote technical and institutional capacity within each institution. So what can we say? First, we should have a national strategy, that under national strategy we should have the coordinated institutional approach between the institutions, among the institutions, and then under each institution we should promote to develop more technical capacity. So if we can have a three-step approach for each country, we believe that we will have a more flourished halal sector in our member countries. And a fourth point can be that we should strengthen the link between the Islamic finance and the production and the trade dimensions of the halal sector. As we know, the global Islamic finance assets reached around like about $6 trillion in 2024. But on the other hand, global sukuk outstanding is at around $1 trillion. And the corporate sukuk still account for only about 12% of all of the sukuk issues. So we need to establish a more stronger link between the finance sector and the trade and investment parts of the halal business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. I would go to our second speaker, Brother Amin Al-Saadi, and ask him on how can halal industries become more resilient to global supply chain disruptions and economic uncertainty. We live in a very fast-changing world. We have a very huge market, and we are trying to consolidate within our member countries, and as suggested by the Director General need a strategy, institutions, and a flow. Now, how halal industries can become more resilient to the disruptions that we are facing in today's world?
Thank you, Mr. Amir. And the timing of this question is very critical, especially with the recent events that we've seen globally. I think the lesson that we've learned from those events is that resilience is not an option anymore. It's a necessity for each company if it wants to survive. The other lesson is that any disturbance in any area of the world will impact all companies and regions globally. And therefore, it is important for all companies or organizations in the halal industry to prepare for resilience prior to having any crisis or any problem. So it needs to be well connected with the strategy of the company. Maybe one of the most important aspects of resilience is diversification. When we talk about diversification, we're talking about supply and value chains. We cannot depend on one or two suppliers, for example, or certain regions in terms of the value chain. So we need to make sure that we are well diversified to make sure that supply is continuous and we don't have any major disruptions. The other diversification is in the markets that we serve. Diversifying the markets will also help organizations and companies avoid and minimize any disruptions during any crisis. The other aspect that organizations need to look at is developing their capabilities close to their markets, meaning that they need to see which markets they focus on, whether it's local, regional, or international, and make sure that their manufacturing capabilities are within this region. The other important point, which is at the core of this forum, is the integrity and the strategic partnership between the different stakeholders in the halal sector, be it investors, lenders, suppliers, manufacturers, etc. This is important to have strong trust and ties between those partners in order to ensure smooth operations during a crisis. Strong governance as well is very important for resilient companies. Governance is the way or the art of making decisions, and it is important in any crisis to have the right decision at the right time. So when the company has strong governance, it makes sure that it makes the right decisions during the crisis. And maybe the last point I want to mention is that when we talk about ethical and halal business models, when you are really ethical and halal, you will be resilient. Because being ethical and halal, it means that the company is fair, it is honest, it is reliable, and it is trustful by its partners. And most importantly, it gives priority to the long-term sustainability of the company. And all of those aspects are major components of resilience of any company. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Amin. So being ethical and halal in itself creates resilience.
Exactly.
This is really a very interesting thought. Now, but sometimes markets are not that ethical, and being yourself just ethical and halal, would it be sufficient for you to move into markets that are not all that fair?
So you're right. The business and it is aggressive. Being aggressive, you can be aggressive and you can be competitive while being ethical. Not being ethical, you might gain in the short term, but if you want to gain at the long term and gain the trust of your consumers and your partners, ethics is key.
But you may face some tariffs, you may face some things which are beyond your being just ethical and fair. So the ecosystem and the whole market economy is very challenging.
Indeed.
Resilience, we need diversification, like you rightly said, and good governance. Now, I would turn to a third speaker and ask the question from the Malaysian perspective. How can halal ecosystem development support the MSME growth, innovation, and export competitiveness? What is your perspective on this. Brother Hadi.
We're kind of quite an expert in this because just now I did mention about the 12,000 or so halal certified companies. From there, 90 odd percent are MSMEs. But behind those, on a yearly basis, there's about 20,000 more applicants who fail. So meaning to say, on an every year basis, 20 odd thousand MSME is trying their hardest to get halal certification, but failing. I think why it entices most micro and SMEs in Malaysia is because, it's the most practical entry point into business discipline. It's a business upgrading tool. In our sense, I think we package halal in Malaysia as an upgrading, as a systemized business tool for these MSMEs to easily adopt certain practices, like rightly mentioned by my fellow panel, Brother Amin and Dr. Zahra as well, that halal itself is already somewhat ESG compliant in many ways. So these are the entry points from MSMEs to get into the mainstream system. And also we, on Dr. Nazim's point that the Islamic finance and halal has seen some sort of gap. I think we're trying to bridge that gap. MSMEs are being groomed for more investable entities. So I think we've put up a few design elements on Islamic instruments such as social finance, the zakat, the waqf, and then some of the P2P financing, peer-to-peer financing, crowdsourcing. Our team from the Securities Commission are doing a lot of works to get more P investors to come in, private investors. So these are the things that are going on from the MSMEs landscape. But MSMEs have to be creative and have to be resilient by themselves. They have to create a product or an entity that is investable for this community. But that's why I think at the Malaysia's end, I think we're getting these MSMEs to be more innovative, more R&D centered, and because I think in the end their exit is that to be halal certified and to be more investable. Yeah.
Thank you, Brother Hadi. Now the DG Sister Zahra mentioned the four: the strategy, institution, technical cooperation, and then Islamic finance to be integrated in this. Then it was mentioned by Brother Hadi as well. I would ask Brother Nazim to tell us how can Islamic finance and trade finance instruments better support halal industry development and cross-border trade.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Amir. I mean, Islamic finance is a key enabler for the halal business ecosystem. And as mentioned earlier, halal by itself means embed all the ESG or green transition, youth and gender inclusiveness. So we have all that within it, but not yet not awareness about it is not there. So when we talk about the growth of the halal business economy, it cannot be, as I mentioned, yet be disconnected to the Islamic finance, because it's Islamic finance that should be the enabler for this halal business to grow. When we look at I would call it the four main pillars of the Islamic halal economy. I would say the food and the food processing industry on one side, biggest pillar. You have the pharmaceutical cosmetic pillar, the fashion, and then the Islamic tourism, right? And then we talk about Islamic finance services. Islamic finance is a cost-cutting team through this because it supports all four of them. Because Islamic finance by itself is not an end. It's an opportunity to support the economy, which is the halal economy. So you have to grow the Islamic finance to be more aligned to the global mandate of development of the halal ecosystem. So this is very important to have this alignment and grow together. Otherwise, you cannot have an Islamic economy, a business working and having non-halal finance. It defeats the whole purpose. So we tend to forget about that. We see a lot of companies very much in line into having process which is conform to halal standard and all that, but the financing come from non-halal origin. This is what we need to avoid. So we as Islamic finance, we have a duty to, therefore, to support that Islamic economy. At ITFC, we do our part. I mean, we do two things. We have trade finance as a mainstream activity, but we also have a pillar called trade development. We can help. We do provide help to member countries in trade-related capacity building, and halal could be one of them where we can contribute to our to contribute to the support the development of the halal economy. So Sharia trade finance is very important to align halal business transaction across all sectors and the value chain. At ITFC, we provide trade finance, murabaha trade finance for import and export. We provide Islamic line of finance to domestic bank in the national economy. We provide supply chain finance on a halal base, Islamic finance basis. We provide structured commodity finance, Islamic structured commodity finance, in order to support the commodity finance economy in our member countries. So we do contribute our part, but there's a lot of gaps, and that gap cannot be bridged by ITFC alone, but it has to be provided by an alignment of all our financial institutions in the member country to work together to support the halal economy mandate of the Islamic countries.
Thank you, Brother Nazim. Actually, ITFC plays a role, a very important role in supporting, but when it comes to MSMEs, your role is more focused through Islamic financial institutions on the ground. And personally, I have been a CEO and the president of an Islamic bank for 15 years in the market. Islamic banks on the end are the ones that deal with MSME sector. And our ability to provide facilities for them also determines their resilience, because they are depending on our pricing and our structure, because this affects their pricing of their products on the end. And that is in the very competitive world, which we were talking with Brother Amin, and where they really have to be resilient. So this is a challenge. And the only strength comes from the growth of Islamic banks, because the pricing is very much affected by the size and economies of scale. So this is something that really has to be really deeply taught in a strategic way, like Sister Zahra said, through a national strategy. And Islamic financial institutions are part of that ecosystem, halal ecosystem. Their strength is also part of it. So we have a very interesting discussion, a very deep thoughts now. We have limited time because we prepared a lot of questions. So I would go to a second or a third round of questions, mostly now focusing on regional integration, trade connectivity, resilience, and future collaboration among our member countries. So I would put a set of questions and ask you to limit your answers to 2 to 3 minutes so that we can also have time for the audience to participate with questions. So I would start with the question to Ms. Zahra, the Director General, Ms. Zahra Seljuk. What are the main challenges currently limiting OIC halal trade, and how can they be addressed? So what practical mechanisms or platforms could help strengthen connectivity among halal businesses, investors, and value chain participants across OIC member countries to facilitate greater trade, investment, and collaboration?
Thank you very much for this question. Actually, as we mentioned, that we have a strong potential, and the strong potential, I think the biggest share of this strong potential is the intra-OIC trade. When we look to intra-OIC trade, actually it's a kind of very good way to deepen economic cooperation and unlock shared growth across our member countries. Despite strong growth in the demand, expanding production capacity and growing policy attention, when we look to the trade side, we see that the halal trade integration isn't yet reached to the full potential. And this gap is largely driven by structural challenges and also by institutional challenges. And as I mentioned, it requires a coordinated action. The first key challenge is, the fragmentation of the standards and also certification systems. So we need to work more on to have a kind of, and these differences in the halal requirements actually across countries increases the compliance cost and lead to repeated inspections and create delays in the trade flows. The way forward is not to impose a single uniform model, but to work together. The second, and also under the OIC, we have an institution called, as you know, CIMIC, that work on this certification and metrology for the halal industry. The second challenge, I guess all of the audience will agree, is the lack of reliable data in this sector. And we have also data among the Islamic finance, but for the other industries under the halal economy, actually we have reliable and internationally comparable data for most of the time. So one reason is that and there are some studies and work about to have developed international harmonized system. But when we don't have this harmonized system, actually it makes it harder for the policymakers, researchers, and also to identify trade patterns and design evidence-based policies for all of us. As we all know, if we cannot measure it, we cannot design effective policies. And the third challenge relates to weak integration of halal value chain. So all the OIC countries represent a major consumer market. As I mentioned before, the production and the trade capacity doesn't fully align with this demand. So, and for example, the halal food sector clearly show evidence about this. And this gap reflects not only a trade imbalance, but also the barriers regarding to structural constraints in terms of the value chain systems, and also the value chain development in the countries. So the fourth challenge is limited capacity in the logistics that we should give more importance, and digital traceability systems. So I guess that, as mentioned before, the halal trade and halal industry should be more from the ethical side. So the base should be trust. And like when we have, it requires assurance that halal integrity is preserved in all phases of the halal economy, so that we can ensure the traceability of the sector. So I can assure that, like, if we can have this, if we can get rid of these challenges, we will have a more flourished halal economy in the near future.
Thank you, Sister Zahra. I would jump to a second question because our time is moving. So I would ask Brother Amin Al-Saadi, on the perspective of HBDC, what opportunities exist for stronger regional halal investment and industrial cooperation among ISDP member countries?
Thank you, Mr. Amir. I think I will build on what you've mentioned and what Mrs. Zahra has mentioned. You've mentioned economy of scale, and this is important for all industries, including the halal industry. The Muslim countries, the OIC member countries, they have very special advantages and strengths, and they are complementary to each other. So for example, some countries have natural resources, other countries have human resources, investment or the funding or the technical capabilities. However, as long as we are working in isolation, we cannot face and resolve the challenges that Mrs. Zahra mentioned. So the opportunity lies within integrating the business and working together. This can be implemented through joint ventures or joint investments between the different countries and organizations in the sector, in addition to harmonizing the standards between the different countries in order to facilitate the trades and being able to access different markets. The key here, and I think if we ask anyone, I think the challenges and the opportunities is there. It is well known. As mentioned by Mr. Samer earlier, it is critical that we implement those initiatives in order to see the fruits of those opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Amin. This is very interesting. We come back to integration, cooperation, enhancement of our. This is what we are trying to do. This is what all ISDB is all about, and this is what this annual meeting and our gathering today in Halal is all about, to explore and see and identify and work together. Now I would go to the third speaker on this theme and ask him on what role do halal industrial parks and integrated ecosystem models play in strengthening domestic production and global market access?
Thank you, Dato' Amir. I'm more confident when we have industrial parks, as an ecosystem, somewhat planner and so on. When you see industrial parks operationalizing, you're more confident. I think if you see in Malaysia, we've got about 14 odd designated halal industrial parks. We've got about, let's say, our player here is from Enstack Halal Park. We've got about 1,600 acres of industrial land and industrial assets in it, operationalizing, producing halal goods. We cannot deny that we need certain supplies or certain raw ingredients from outside. So our halal industrial park, while it runs somewhat religiously, sorry to use the term, but we run on a trade balance. The raw ingredients that we import to produce our halal goods. So at a yearly basis, I think Matrade can attest to this. We run about 1 to 2% of trade balance. While we can't get enough supply from our side, we still need supplies from member countries and so on. That's why I think intra-OIC trade is quite important for our halal industrial park, or our halal players inside the halal industrial park to run efficiently. And I also somewhat concur with Dr. Zahra on the data sets. I think it's really important to have data sets of products coming in and coming out, and what's your the materials that you can actually produce on your own. I think Malaysia, most of you know, around the Asian area, palm oil is quite the go-to product, and we've been producing byproducts of palm oil in loads, in barrels and loads. Halal certified, so we've managed to get it into other sectors, converge into other sectors, pharmaceutical, cosmetics, and the likes. So I think making good use of our place inside the halal industrial park to come up with some sort of circular economy around the area to produce products and byproducts of certain things. So I think that's the role. I think halal industrial park is an ecosystem of itself. While we have those circular economy going around, we've also got, let's say, the financial players coming in, helping them, to assist them to raise finance and run the financial modelings. We've got logistic players. We've got, all these auxiliary services that comes in as and when necessary. So to me, that's the ecosystem in running. So that's why I, as a planner, as a government agency, as a developer, economy developer, I think when we see industrial park, we go like, okay, that's applied economics at work. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Brother Hadi. This is very insightful. And actually, we have been talking about ecosystem, economies of scale. I mentioned economies of scale being important for Islamic banks. Then Brother Amin mentioned it's important everywhere, and you are absolutely right. It's economies of scale that affects the price affects the competitiveness, and if we stick to the ethical and best effort basis, I think the quality of product will also come, and the price, and that actually scales up. And the formula is to scale up. We need to all put our heads together and see how do we scale up. Now, Brother Nazim, how do we scale up? What are the innovative trade, finance, and development approaches should institutions prioritize to strengthen halal sector resilience and sustainability?
Innovation, Islamic finance. We need to look at on the demand side. We mentioned trade finance or finance gap. So what can we do on the demand side at national level, regional level, and global level? So how that demand could be met? First, we may have to look at, among other solutions, is some sort of certification of all the halal business at this SME level and micro SME level, how we can call them certified as halal business, all right? Something that can be done national and then regional and global level. Once we have that, then we know what is our size of our market segment that we want we require financing in all the different sectors. Then on the supply side, people like us, ITFC or multilateral or international bank, Islamic bank, then can work together. We can, as you may not be aware, but ITFC doing around $9 billion trade finance a year, about half of this, or more than half of this amount are fund mobilized from the market, from Islamic bank in the region, in the Gulf region and Europe, in a way we mobilize funds from other sources in order to support the member country funding requirement, which is partly also the halal economy. So we can play a role as a fund mobilizer to bring it for the halal economy, and we can carve out a portion of all the financing for the halal certified, what do you call it, businesses that we're talking about. So for example, when we can mobilize funds, ITFC, bring to local domestic bank in the member country, where we put up a tranche of that amount for the halal business. For example, we do give financing now for where we have a tranche, we call it for green financing. We can do it where we put a tranche of all the financing, which is dedicated to be used for halal certified businesses, particularly SME. Then they could be able to access financing easier and make them competitive, because financing can bring competitiveness to the SMEs. Another way of also is we can add empower microfinance institutions in member countries, because they are the ones that will provide funds to the micro SMEs. So we should be able, therefore, to interact more with microfinance institutions in member countries, whether it is in Asia or in Africa, where we can help to fund these small businesses that are the backbone, would be the backbone of the halal economy. Thirdly, as a model for multilateral is to blend the financing with the capacity building. As I mentioned earlier, capacity building very important. How to provide a mechanism in order to support SMEs to, for example, among other things, is create a conducive environment for the halal community to grow, awareness, and also for them to go into to understand standardization, certification for the halal business. I think these are the I would say solution is not purely financing, but it's a blend of financing and capacity building mechanism in place. So for other TFC, I would expect that, for example, we're in Azerbaijan, where you have the institution here, they want to lead the halal economy of the region. So maybe ITFC can join hand with them for a program, a regional program, national and regional program, where we can help the halal business growth to be achieved. And we'll be delighted to work with relevant partners locally, but also regionally, internationally, that can make this project of developing halal the business in the region to grow. I mean, we'll be very happy to work with all relevant stakeholders that we have here on the panel. And ITFC will be ready also to sponsor among sponsors if we have put up the right project in place for the halal ecosystem to grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Nazim. I think you touched the very two interesting segments of scaling up, especially in MSMEs, on the microfinance and the technical capacity building. This is very, very important. But sometimes microfinance comes to the final users quite expensive, which is not really helping especially the micro corporations. Sometimes they go with very extreme high prices, and I think this is where we come back to the Sister Zahra's idea of the priority being the national strategy, because if we have a national strategy that would support all the ecosystem, including the microfinance, which needs sometimes to be subsidized in order for the smallest corporations or MSMEs to come up. This is very important. And another thing, the technical capacity building, which mentioned by Nazim, again, that is part of that national strategy that should be the role of governments. Now, our time is ending, and I just would like to give a few more minutes because we have a very remarkable panel here with the top 4 experts in the field, but we also have a very remarkable audience. When I look across the audience, I see a lot of leaders in the halal industry, a lot of intellectuals. So I will give a floor to the House if there are any questions, any comments before we close. Please, can we share the microphone to the gentleman in front first, and then we will have a gentleman in the back. Do we have a microphone? Thank you.
My name is Arif Nahdi, Chairman for the Center for Islamic Finance and Compliance in Tanzania. What we see about halal, some of them even they're surprised when you talk about halal. Halal is not only in finance, halal is in many things we have to think about. So because the finance now, example, I'll give you an example of my country, Tanzania. Tanzania, about 60% are Muslims. But when you say about halal, they are surprised that what is this halal, what is this haram, in finance, in business also. So what we ask the panel or the ISDB to put more effort in the countries like Africa for awareness of what is going on in the world. So this is the thing that we want to know, that how you people have doing initiative to do for halal. If you go to Malaysia, you talk about halal, everybody knows. If you go to Saudi Arabia, if you go to Middle East countries or Islamic countries, but the countries like Africa, where there is a future for the youth, and the future of the economy of the world is in Africa. So we have to look for the Africa. We have to know that we need to do something for Africa. The awareness is the priority, and we want to know how you people have been doing to make awareness in our part of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would give a floor to another question, and then we will answer them.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Mohammad Abid Hassan. I am from Bangladesh. I am a young researcher in the Islamic finance field. So I have two questions actually. First question to Mr. Nazim, and second to Ms. Zehra.
The second question to
Ms. Zehra. Yeah. So my first question to Mr. Nazim regarding green sukuk. You mentioned about the green finance. So also you mentioned about the transition of economy toward green economy. So in this regard, for financing in halal economy, what is the prospect of green sukuk? What is the probability and prospects of green sukuk? If you discuss about it a bit, it would be clear for us. Is it clear regarding the green sukuk?
Yes.
Do you get any?
And your second question?
Yes.
To Sister Zahra?
Second question is regarding to Ms. Zehra about the data. Ms. Zehra, you mentioned about the challenge of implementation of halal economy. The main challenge is information and data. So you are the DG of CESRIC, So my question is regarding the lack of data and information. Is CESRIC developing any centralized database or index to track halal economic growth across OIC member countries? Thank you so much.
Okay, so we have basically 3 questions to answer. Maybe we can go from the last one to Sister Zahra.
Actually, we have under OIC, we have the most comprehensive database. It is called OIC Stat database. It includes more than 1,800 indicators. It also has a sector related to the halal economy. But as I mentioned, the first data should be collected by the countries. We are working on it. We have some indicators under this category. But it depends on, as I mentioned, that the national strategies should be developed and they should give priority to the data collection. I also want to mention about our brother from Tanzania, because I think there is also a kind of, how can I say, to clarify the concepts when we talk about ethical halal business models. Actually, what we have inherent in Islam, now we are turning back and trying to insert this into a modern economy. But actually we have this from our core values. So actually halal is a more higher standard than ethical. Because in halal you should respect the labor, you should respect the environment. So actually it is a more comprehensive definition than the ethical start, because the halal should base on trust. And it is more comprehensive than ethics, I guess. So I guess when we should also coin the words rightfully before talking about this, we should talk about whether it is halal is more comprehensive than ethical things, because rather than respecting the only humans, we are respecting all of the world. We respect the nature, we respect the labor standards. So it is our core values, actually.
Thank you, Sister Zahra. You see, we have as a panel, we have resilience. With one answer, we answer 2 questions. We are preparing for a very difficult economy ahead and the challenges that Brother Amin was mentioning. So we'll go to the 3rd question on the green sukuk that was raised to Brother Nazim.
I'm not an expert in sukuk, but from my understanding of it is, or the sukuk is a fund mobilizer with the supply side, and the green sukuk is meant to fund the green economy as we know, all right? And the green economy by itself is a component of the halal economy. So it's not the halal economy which is green, but the green economy is a component of the halal economy. So in a way, having green sukuk which already exists, I think even in IDB, we do have a mobilized fund for green projects. This will help actually partly a solution to bring fund on the supply side for the halal economy, and this will be done.
Thank you, Brother Nazim. And just before closing, I just want to give also reflection to brother from Tanzania. He made also a very interesting point in his question, which is that we also have, all our institutions have to do and invest a lot in public education. We really need to educate public on what we are doing and where we are heading, and that is the only way how we can actually have on the end integrated solution to our challenges. So thank you very much. We have a very interesting discussion. I think we reached to an end, and we can see that the halal economy really represents a strategic platform for sustainable economic growth, regional integration, and trade expansion. It actually presents like a blue ocean strategy for OIC member countries, which are, we have many among our member countries, many LDMCs, and we need innovative, integrative solutions with a blue strategy approach to actually enhance our economies. And halal economy and halal platform is definitely a very, very feasible option. But we need stronger partnerships between governments, financial institutions, and private sector shareholders are essential for this to work and to have a resilient and halal ecosystem. Islamic finance, halal industrial infrastructure, and ecosystem-based approach can significantly strengthen halal value chain and MSMEs participation. Regional collaboration and harmonization efforts remain critical to unlocking the full potential of intra-OIC halal trade. I hope that today's gathering, today's meeting contributed for us to develop, and inshallah we will be working in this direction, contributing for the success of this thematical, very important aspect for the OIC member countries and ISTB. Thank you all for participating, and thank you for being with us, listening until the end. I think you see this panel as interesting because I see the full house from beginning to the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to our moderator and distinguished panelists for a highly insightful discussion. Please remain on stage for a group photo. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll now break for coffee and networking for 20 minutes, and the program will resume promptly at 11:35. Thank you.